Welcome to Talk Back, the Friday edition. Now that the hunting and fishing shows are done, we'll have Talk Back for the full 90 minutes on every Friday now. And Talk Back brought to you this morning in part by Big Sky Breakout, Missoula's premier escape room, offering special events including team building, office retreats, and holiday parties. Also brought to you by Selway Armory on Stockyard Road, Montana's premier firearms dealer. Ponderosa Dental, just off Reserve on 3rd. When you think of a great smile, think of Ponderosa Dental, proud corporate partners of Grizzly Athletics. Western States Cap, don't let your car, truck, or heavy machinery get caught dead. Power up with 30% off Caterpillar high-performance batteries at Western States Cap. And brought to you by Missoula Nissan Hyundai. If you're considering a new or pre-owned vehicle, head to Missoula Nissan Hyundai. Every purchase gets you 2 years of free service and a year of free gas at Missoula's Truck Capital. Okay, welcome everybody. Glad to have you along on this Friday edition of Talk Back. Hey, John, how you doing, man?
I'm great. It's my Monday, so that's good.
Well, yeah, because I love Mondays.
You love Mondays. I love Fridays.
Yeah, there you go. We're
it's a rockin' world. We're happy no matter what's going on.
I don't know. But the only thing that doesn't make me happy, actually, I'm not terribly sad about the snow because there's only like this much.
Well, there's that much on your car since you parked, actually.
Yeah, I know. There's like this much. And so that will make it easier for me to get rid of it, which is what I like to do with snow.
I pulled in this morning. I was like, oh, Peter didn't leave yesterday.
Oh, no. All right, but I understand we have a caller already because kind of open phones going on Fridays, at least for the first half hour. Susan Campbell Renault.
Well, hello.
Hey, by the way, Susan, our condolences on the loss of your mom.
Oh, yeah, it was, if a death can be joyful, it was joyful. She saw an entire room full of angels, and she had northern lights shooting out behind the angels,
wow.
and her last words were, wow.
I did have the pleasure of meeting your mom once at church, and if I recall, it included a giant hat. So I'm sure there'll be big hats in heaven for her.
Oh, yes, and she loved to dance and sing.
Awesome.
And she was almost 99.
Wow.
So she had a wonderful, wonderful life.
She paved the way, Peter. Keep it going.
Thanks a lot, John.
We are actually having a celebration of her life this Monday at the American Legion. She was one of my first Santa Sock magical elves, and we're having a potluck supper starting at 5 o'clock, and I invite any of your listeners who want to come. The American Legion is at 825 Ronan Street, and they are welcome. They need to bring a dish to share, and she was a wonderful lady, and we're going to tell stories about Amy Campbell. So
fantastic.
Anyway, the reason I called is that Santa Socks is going to do their thing starting tomorrow. In fact, we're going to make deliveries to the Village and to Valor House tomorrow, and then we're going to go to 22 other places all over the place. And I want to thank some fabulous companies in this area that have given us the money to do Santa Socks. Number one is Walmart. Walmart gave us a grant of $1,500.
Lovely.
For Santa Socks. We also got money from Target and Walgreens and Costco, and also individuals that very generously stepped up and volunteered to buy things. And tomorrow, Saturday, we are going to be, our magical elves are going up to the North Pole, and we are going to be putting together all of our socks. What we're going to put down into them are candy canes and Army men and little trinkets, and with a love note to each veteran that gets a Santa sock.
That's great.
And we're planning to distribute 550 this season.
Wonderful. All right, Susan, I'm so glad you called.
Okay, great. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Same to you.
Yeah. May you find comfort in this difficult time.
You bet. Amen. All right, so there you go. It is 8:36 now. John, you have been busy gleaning stuff today.
Well, there's all kinds of stuff. I figure we'll start with something lighthearted and not really local.
Okay.
But the Jimmy Kimmel show. I was down the hall, like in the kitchen,
I know.
which is quite a ways. If you've ever been to this rat maze of a building, and I heard Peter laughing through a closed door, by the way.
Right.
This is Jimmy Kimmel went down in, of course, New York and talked to people about Donald Trump's picks for cabinet positions, etc.
Right.
But instead of the actual picks, they substituted supervillains from comic books.
If you haven't heard this, it is. It's probably even better on video because the people who are answering are just answering. Oh yeah, I agree with that. Oh no, I think that's a bad pick.
You get a glint of I don't know what really this guy is talking about or this gal's talking about, but we'll just play it for you.
Here we go.
But Trump's been busy assembling his cabinet. And his nominees are all pretty out there so far. As of today, the least controversial person in his cabinet is a guy named Mad Dog. And these cabinet positions are important. Speculation about who will fill them is all over the cable news, but I wonder how closely regular people are paying attention. So today, we went on the street and we asked pedestrians, people walking by our theater, about a bunch of new Trump cabinet appointees. But instead of real people, we used the names of comic book villains. And that went exactly like this in tonight's appointment television edition of Live Witness News.
What do you think about Trump appointing Dr. Otto Octavius as head of the CDC?
I do not agree with him.
And do you think that he'll have all 8 of his hands in the pockets of pharmaceutical companies?
Yes, I do.
How come?
I believe that Trump would allow him to. He would
Dr.
give him that
Octopus,
authority.
by the way.
What do you think about Trump appointing Edward Nygma for the Department of Education?
I actually think that's a great idea for our election, yeah.
The Riddler.
Trump is trying to diversify the gender makeup of his cabinet. So do you think his appointment of Harley Quinn was a good choice given that she
From the
has
Suicide
volatile
Squad,
mental health
right?
issues?
No.
Is it a good choice to have her as Secretary of Health and Human Services?
No.
Joker's girlfriend.
She's got her own issues. I don't know that she'll make good decisions.
Harvey Dent has an experience as a district attorney, but he's been accused of flip-flopping
From
on
Batman,
key
brother.
issues. Do you trust him, or do you think he's a little bit two-faced to be Attorney General?
I think he's a little bit two-faced to be Attorney General.
How come?
We need somebody straight-laced.
Like who?
Janet Reno.
She's dead.
But didn't she die?
Yes, ma'am.
People are saying that Edward Nygma riddles too much for the school system. Do you agree with that?
I do, but I feel like his back, he does have good intentions.
So General Zod is known for being very brash and outspoken. Do you think that ISIS will kneel before him the way he's demanded that they do?
No, I don't think I think they're more powerful than him.
Who's more evil, ISIS or General Zod?
I feel like ISIS, there's more of them. I feel they're more powerful.
In a war between multiple General Zods and ISIS, who would win?
I'm going to say General Zod. Yeah.
Do you think Trump was smart to pick Lex Luthor as Attorney General?
I think it was smart for Trump, but I don't think it's a smart move for America, no.
So Lex Luthor's appointment is like kryptonite for America?
Yes. Wow. It's deadly.
And you wouldn't lie about that?
No, I would not.
Wow. Okay, there you go.
So now when my wife wonders what all my comic book knowledge is any good for. I
Yeah,
could
there
say,
you go.
Well, if Jimmy Kimmel ever asks me, I'll be able to catch that one right on the spot.
That's right. You're trying to fool me with supervillains, aren't you? Which they probably got a bunch of those, and they said we didn't want to use you.
Oh, I'm sure they tried. What about the Joker? Or,
Right. Yeah.
Because some names are just really hard. You
I know. Yeah.
But I did wonder, where do they get all these not intelligent people? Or the people that just don't seem to pay attention to the news?
Well, supposedly these are folks who just literally walked in front of the theater.
And I thought about that too. But if you ask most people walking down the street, and these people are dressed nice.
Yeah,
I mean, they have money.
They're not weird or
they're not
whatever
doped up or
seem
sleeping
to
under
be
a bridge
anyway.
somewhere. I mean, they seem to be part of general society.
Yeah.
And then I realized it must be all the fake news in New York.
It must be.
It must be that
Yes.
they could believe this sort of
Yes,
thing.
of course. There's a lot of fake news out there, as Hillary Clinton said at her little meeting yesterday.
Well, I actually have that clip if you want
Do
to
you?
play that.
Okay,
So
well, we're up against a break.
it is the first that we've heard from Hillary Clinton. It was
Yes.
actually at Harry Reid's
retirement party.
retirement party. Also the funeral for the Democratic Party.
We're going to come right back. Okay, we're back. 721-1290 is our number. 1-800-568-5309. Okay, we have this clip. This is former Secretary of State and former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. She was at the retirement party for Senator Harry Reid of Nevada. Okay, not Nevada, but Nevada. And here is what she had to say while she was on stage.
I just mentioned briefly one threat in particular that should concern all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, especially those who serve in our Congress. The epidemic of malicious fake news and false propaganda that flooded social media over the past year. It's now clear that so-called fake news can have real-world consequences. This isn't about politics or partisanship. Lives are at risk. Lives of ordinary people just trying to go about their days, to do their jobs, contribute to their communities. It's a danger to be addressed, and addressed quickly. Bipartisan legislation is making its way through Congress to boost the government's response to foreign propaganda, and Silicon Valley is starting to grapple with the challenge and threat of fake news. It's imperative that leaders in both the private sector and the public sector step up to protect our democracy and innocent lives. Harry Reid and Vice President Biden may be stepping back from the daily scrum of politics and governing, but I know I speak for them as well as tens of millions of Americans when I say that we are all counting on those of you who remain.
Those of you who remain?
Those of you who remain.
Wow.
Like I said, it sounds a little bit like a funeral.
Yeah, it did. I was like, wow. Okay, so fill me in, all right? When you say fake news, Jimmy Kimmel just did fake news.
No.
Or was that just a parody?
Well, it was lie witness news.
It was lie witness news.
Right.
But it was clearly, okay, don't believe this is funny. All
yeah,
right?
it was a parody.
So fake news is supposedly news that has some modicum of truth. Is that right?
Well,
or what?
I think that the term itself can be a little.
Or is it oxymoronic?
It's like, for example, I know people that have shared Onion stories,
right?
Which is a humor column,
right?
By the way, which tilts very much to the left.
Absolutely.
I love the Onion. It's hilarious.
It is funny, yeah. But the Onion is like 50 years old. I mean, it's been around forever,
right? The Daily Show, for example,
right? Yeah.
There is jokes inserted into actual stories. People can get confused. But they're talking about fake news as basically any bad news about Hillary Clinton. I think that's actually the definition.
I think that must be it. Anyway, 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. I got a little open phone thing happening here, but let's get our good friend Sue on the line. Good morning, Sue.
Good morning.
What's up, kid?
So are you guys serious about not understanding what the fake news stories are?
Well, why don't you fill me in?
Pizzagate is the most famous one.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that the guy goes into the pizza place and shoots it up, and it's all because somebody started a story about Hillary Clinton having a child pornography ring.
It's actually child sex slavery trafficking.
Well,
yeah.
Anyway,
so why do you think people?
And it's spread all over the media, and some guy goes in there and shoots up the place.
Well,
it's a fake news story, and one of the guys in Trump's cabinet, his son, was one of the people that was spreading the story.
General Flynn Jr. His son.
Flynn Jr. So, I do think it's kind of serious, and I appreciate, your glee at dissing anything.
No. Here's my position, Sue. Just hold on for a second. My position isn't that. She wants the government to take action against fake news. First of all, I think that's a really scary infringement on free speech. But second of all...
Well, Donald Trump won't even have a news conference.
He's had many. He just spoke with the New York Times last week.
He doesn't have any news conferences. He tweets. He doesn't talk to
I just saw him do an interview with about the People magazine cover on the Today Show.
Was he there?
Well, he called in.
Or was he on the phone?
He was on the phone.
Yeah, he's always on the phone.
Okay.
Well, what would you like?
You're still having a news conference if you're on the phone.
He's not president yet. What would you like him to do that would satisfy you? That seriously, that you would think, okay, he's engaged.
Stop tweeting really important things and actually talk to the do a real interview, talk to the press. He won't even talk to the press.
Now, wait, when the New York Times came to do the interview, they were sitting face to face with him. It's on record. I mean, it's not like the New York Times is his best buddy.
No,
I think you're being a little unfair on this one. Hey, now, I'm not a big Trump supporter. Everyone knows. I mean, you just got to be honest. Maybe you didn't read the real news on this one.
Maybe what?
I said maybe you haven't read the real news on this one, but he has been doing some interviews. By the way, he's done a lot more interviews than Hillary did during the campaign.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh. Well, I just had to call about the fake news thing because
I appreciate that. Because, to be honest with you, I had not. You know me, I've got 47 irons in the fire all at once, and so I had not heard about the deal with the pizza place.
Oh, Pizzagate is ridiculous. Yes, It is fake news.
You guys are really good at covering the news, and I have to give you that. You're very good reporters.
Well, we try.
I think the national media probably
it all depends on who you talk to about whether or not we cover the news.
Now, I will say, Sue, a lot of people heard this Pizzagate story. But by the way, just to give you a little background, Peter, there's this place in Washington, D.C. I think it's called Ping Pong something. I forget the name of the Ping Pong Pizza.
The pizza place.
And this pizza place in D.C., one of the guy that runs it's a big Democratic contributor.
Right.
And this fake news story went out that there was a child sex trafficking ring that was going through the pizza in the basement. By the way, the place doesn't even have a basement of this pizza parlor, and that Hillary Clinton and the Clintons were involved.
Oh my Lord.
And this guy heard about this story and went with a gun, threatened. He wanted to find the truth. He was basically being Batman in his mind, I guess. He was being doing it on his own. And he shot the wall, threatening to, basically to find information.
Was anybody hurt?
He got arrested. No one was hurt. He was arrested and taken to jail, and he ruined his life, basically. He's a 28-year-old guy.
So he's an idiot.
He's an idiot.
Right.
Now, for Democrats out there, that's the fake news. The real news is the Lolita Express. A guy was actually put in trouble for having sex trafficking of children. That same guy was a friend of Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton flew on the plane where some of this activity happened. He escaped his own detail to go on that plane. This is a piece from the Washington Times. This is a real news story.
Oh, the Washington Times.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you this didn't pop up on the blue Facebook page that you might have been reading, but
okay. Okay, she's gone. All right.
But yeah, it's a real story. An investigation into official flight records of financier and convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein's Lolita Express are once again dragging former Bill Clinton into the national spotlight. Flight logs obtained by Gawker, which is, by the way, a very left-leaning website, in January 2015, put Mr. Clinton on the billionaire's infamous jet more than a dozen times, sometimes with a woman whom federal prosecutors suspect of procuring underage sex victims for Mr. Epstein. Fox News reported Friday that records show Mr. Clinton declined Secret Service protection on at least 5 flights, basically saying, Secret Service, don't follow me on the plane. The network's investigation reveals Mr. Clinton flew on the Boeing 727 Lolita Express 26 times, more than doubling the previously reported, the ones that he disclosed, 11 trips. But basically,
we're like 3 minutes overdue for a break. So
there's some dark stuff here.
We'll be right back. It's Friday. 721-1290 is the number, 1-800-568-5309. That's John King over there is on lead guitar. I'm handling the drums. All right. All right, so we have exactly 2 minutes before we have to take our heart break, and then I understand we have representatives from the faculty of the University of Montana coming to join us in the studio next hour to talk about so much going on at the university. Of course, as you know, President Engstrom has submitted his resignation. There are listening sessions, all sorts of different things that are going on to try to, get that process going. So let's get Steve on the line. Steve, we got about a minute and a half. Go.
Hey, I just wanted to say that, I think that if he was controllable, one General Azad would be more than enough to wipe out ISIS.
That's true, unless you have Superman.
Yeah. Okay, there you
go. Which just makes it tough.
All right, so, yeah. Anyway, I don't know what to think. I wish I kept up more on the whole superhero and supervillain thing. I really don't. I'm too busy watching Hallmark Christmas movies. But
oh, you're still stuck in that cycle.
With my wife. So, Rick, you're on Talkback. What's up?
Yeah, you wanted fake news. How about hands up, don't shoot?
Yeah, that was definitely a fake
Thank
news
you.
story. Yeah, thanks for the call. All right.
Or how about Trump's concentration camps?
Trump's concentration camps?
Oh, yeah. Liberals think that Trump's plan is to set up concentration camps.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I heard that there's a lot of fear out there about President-elect Trump. Although, if you look at the cabinet that he is putting together, it's probably one of the most diverse in presidential history. Yeah. But let's get we have 30 seconds. Mike, go ahead.
Hi. Two things about the media. Nobody trusts them anymore, and that's why everything seems to be fake news. And also, the Democrats have to find some excuse why they lost the election. It couldn't be that their policies suck. It's the message was wrong, and who puts out the message? It must be all fake news that's putting out the message. So,
all right. Well, Mike, thanks for the call, man.
Hey, thanks.
Appreciate it. Have a great day. Okay, well, we have to take our hard break now. Not heartbreak, but hard break.
It depends on who you are.
That's true. We're going to come right back, and hopefully we'll have some folks on from the University of Montana to talk about what's going on campus. Of course, your input always welcome. So stay with us. Welcome back to Talkback. Hour number 2 is underway, brought to you this morning by Big Sky Breakout, Selway Armory, Ponderosa Dental, Western States Cat, and Missoula Nissan Hyundai. Okay, as is our custom every Friday at just after 9 o'clock, we are pleased and privileged to have with us the county attorney for Missoula. It's Kirsten Papps. Good morning, Kirsten.
Good morning, Peter.
What do you have to report for us this week, ma'am?
Well, I would say we've had a steady week. We charged about 10 new complaints this week, and that kind of a usual variety, criminal endangerment, couple felony drug cases, opiates, and another one with intent to sell, an assault with a weapon, an aggravated assault, exploitation of a person with a developmental disability.
We also had a child abuse case too, right?
Yeah, that's
sexual abuse. Yeah,
child sexual abuse. Well, we put the warrant out a while back, and he just appeared. Mr. Moody, you're referring to,
correct?
And so he appeared as well.
Yeah, that was
a couple others.
Terribly sad story there.
Very sad story.
So, with this cold weather snap coming through, is anything slowing down? I mean, you feel less crime going? I know the police department says there's been a little bit less crime in the last couple of days.
You know, we've seen a short-term sort of cessation, but I don't want to get too confident or comfortable and start letting everybody take time off because, you know, those trends can change very quickly.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy busy year for you guys.
It has been an extremely crazy busy year for us.
What I'm looking forward to is I know as we get closer to the end of the year, you'll have a wrap-up for us, kind of a look back at the year. Would you like to do a retrospective with us?
I would absolutely like to do that. In fact, I'm starting to put some of those reports together now, and then I'll probably spend a couple days over the holidays studying them and crunching the numbers and putting together a report for you.
Well, let's plan on doing a little bit of one next Friday because Peter and I are taking a few days off.
Well, next Friday, I don't know that I'll have the numbers yet.
Oh,
but
okay.
I kind of want to wait till the end of the year so that we've got a really accurate comparison from last year.
Well, here's what I'll do. I'm going to be working the last week of the year, so I will contact you toward the end of that week, and we'll just do a news story about it. How's that sound?
Perfect.
All right.
Now, I hear you have breaking road news.
You know, I'd like to send greetings along from the Missoula County Office of Public Works, formerly known as the Road Department, also known as those tireless folks who never get enough recognition or gratitude that clear the streets for us when the weather gets bad.
It's the person you want to drive behind, right? Because they've got the sand and all the de-icer stuff.
They do. So just a reminder to be courteous to snowplows and drivers, slow down and be really patient on the snowy days because they have a priority list of roads that they have to get first. And on moderate snow days, they can generally get every road in the county within a 24-hour period, but on heavy snow days or if equipment's down, then it's going to take them a little bit longer. They have a couple requests that they asked me to pass on.
Go for it.
One is that on garbage day, please move your garbage cans out of the roadway as soon as the garbage man comes, if you can. It really helps them so that they don't have to try to plow around them. If your mailboxes are sticking out, you might want to move them back if they're movable, because some mailboxes are injured or damaged when the snowplow goes by, and
right.
We don't want to hurt any innocent mailboxes. It is not lawful to push your snow into the roadway so that it will be plowed away by the plows. We don't really enforce that too much because we do have the equipment to do that, but at the same time, if you have another place you can put your snow, it's really appreciated. And then finally, if you've got kids that are waiting at a bus stop for school, put on reflective clothes for them because they're really hard to see for some of these snowplow drivers. Have the kids stand as far back as possible until the bus gets there. We want those little guys to be safe.
You got it. All right. So all those things we have heard and we shall do.
Thank you very much.
I'm committing our listeners.
So let it be written.
so let it be done. Row well and live, number 41. Anyway.
And just say thank you to your snowplow drivers. Give them a nice wave and maybe a hot cup of coffee.
I always wave at the snowplow drivers. So there you go.
Like, hey, where's my mailbox?
Kirsten, thanks so much. You have a wonderful weekend.
You as well. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. She's got your good sport. Okay, we're going to come right back, and we have our guests in studio this morning from the University of Montana, and we will be right back. Okay, we are back on Talk Back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us here this morning. We've got our phone lines are open at 721-1290, but we have guests in the studio. We have Mirdad Kia, we have Michael Mayer, and David Beck, all professors at the University of Montana. And so Mirdad, you have grasped the microphone, sir. And, of course, there's nothing really going on campus.
It's
really.
by habit.
There's not a whole lot really going on. We've got the president has stepped down, and there's a search and all this. So why don't you, from the perspective of the faculty, because we have faculty here, how are you folks handling all this?
First, good morning to you, Peter and John. Thank you very much for giving us the time to talk to you and to your listeners. Second, I do not speak, and I have never pretended to speak on behalf of any group of faculty other than myself.
Right, yeah.
Third, we thought this was a great opportunity to talk about the challenges and the opportunities that have opened up as a result of the changes at the University of Montana, one of which is, of course, the search for a new president, and then another search for a new provost or chief academic officer or vice president for
Can I ask
academic
you a question?
affairs.
I have always wondered, and please forgive my ignorance, because I'm not a part of the whole university scene except for doing the Grizzly games. What is a provost, and what does a provost do?
Yeah.
Right?
A provost is the chief academic officer, is the vice president for academic affairs. There are several vice presidents, vice president for finance and budgeting, vice president for student affairs, and on, vice president for research. These are very important posts. So for academic affairs means that he or she is the chief academic officer, promotions, tenures, merits, evaluation of faculty ultimately goes through his or her office.
Is that the person also that helps to set the tone as to what programs will be either kept or left behind?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a key position in terms of academic decisions and programmatic decisions. And that is why in more recent interviews, at least I have emphasized on the need for the university to complete the search for a president and a search for a provost before any major decisions are made with regard to changes in programs. There is a talk about the need for cuts, for example, or prioritization or reprioritization, as it's called. All that, I believe, that needs to take place after these two individuals are in their offices. One thing that is very important in this context, I've emphasized, a lot of my colleagues have emphasized, the need for a national, open, and transparent search. This is not a political office. This is not a popularity contest. This is the future of the university, and it needs to be decided through a national open search, which means we have to take applications, we have to take candidates. The university and the community needs to actually be able to see these people, ask their questions, and at the end of the process, choose the best person in the pool. This is what we are looking for. Two very top-notch individuals who can actually come in with experience, with understanding of our challenges, and take the leadership of the university.
Okay, here's my question, and again, I'm speaking as just a rank citizen, all right? The one thing that I have heard in my interviews that I've done with so many of the top folks at the University of Montana is that even though Waded Cruzado and Dr. Engstrom made well over $200,000 per year, to the average Montanan who makes $50,000 a year, that's an enormous amount of money. However, in the university community and the scholarly community across the country, that is not very much at all. I mean, as a matter of fact, in some ways, people look at that and say, oh, well, I'm not even going to consider going to the University of Montana.
It's actually over $300,000. That's a correction.
All right, so go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, it is a problem. I was on the search committee for a provost, which we had to run a couple of times, I think actually maybe even a third time, when we hired Roy Sangstrom, partly because our salaries are below national averages.
Right,
and
yeah.
You're right. It sounds like an enormous amount of money.
To me, it is.
I think objectively it is.
Objectively it is from one perspective. It depends who you want to hire.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to hire people who are in the market to be university presidents, our presidents are not as underpaid as they were. Cruzado was hired, and she got a lot of money. And because the two presidents are supposed to be equal, it meant a raise for UM's president. And so they're not as far below national norms as they were, but they were below half of national norms.
Do you mind if I even at a $200,000, let's say, does the president add that much value to a college? It's not like, I don't know. I think that there's a problem with the executive direction of many of American businesses. I don't think CEOs add as much value as people assume they do. I don't think presidents of universities add as much value to the university as people assume that they do. Maybe that's just me, but $300,000 seems probably like you're paying for less than you're getting, or more than you get.
It's a lot of money on a day, and they don't make that much difference necessarily on a day-to-day basis. Wait till you have a crisis. And then that's when the presidents earn their salaries, and how that crisis is handled, and that's when you really see the difference, I think. And for provosts too. I mean, it's very difficult for us because our provosts, again, are a little closer to national norms. I know a lot of faculty complain that as well, that administrators make a lot of money, and they do. But for the most part, our administrators are about as underpaid, or maybe even a little bit more, than our faculty if you compare salaries to national norms. And again, it's a lot of money in Montana, but we're not looking for the best person in Montana. When we hired a registrar recently, one of the applicants was a painting contractor from Bozeman, who I'm sure is a very good painting contractor from Bozeman, but that's not really, and I'm sure it would have been a huge increase in salary for that painting contractor,
right, yeah.
But that's not really who we want to be registrar at the University of Montana.
Okay, so.
Yeah, and I would just add one thing.
This is David Beck. Go ahead.
I'm Dave Beck. I think that in terms of the day-to-day issues that presidents deal with, that also can make a difference, because if you leadership on the campus is so important, and the president sets the tone for everything that goes on campus. And so for us to be successful in our classrooms, for the recruiters to be successful in recruiting, for the student services to be successful in helping students manage the system and stay there. If we have strong leadership at the top, then we can do our jobs.
Sure.
And if we have weak leadership at the top, then we can't. And so I also understand, coming from my background, that the salary of a president at the university seems very high from the outside. But as my colleagues have said, it's very important that we get the best person we can to run our university, to keep it a great university.
Now, Michael, you've worked in the past trying to select a president, right? I think you gave that up, or
I've been on search committees for a number of administrative positions, provost, registrar, university council, a number of these, but I've not been on one for a president.
You had said that you really find the value of one of these executives in crisis mode. Mm-hmm. When you're doing a search, I mean, how do you find out? I mean, people don't usually operate on a day-to-day basis in crisis mode.
No, but you find out people. You can find out people who are leaders, who have appropriate experience. Usually, they've had positions of responsibility. They've dealt with something. In fact, one of the things that is often asked is what was the most difficult situation or that you had to handle, or
how did you deal with it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah.
And that's one of the most common questions in an administrative search.
A- on Mirdad's term paper.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, we're going to come right back. Doug, if you'll hang on, we have 3 lines open. 721-1290 is our number. We'd love to. I realize the university is going to have listening sessions, but we have a talking session right here. So if you have an idea or a thought about what kind of person or what kind of individual the new president or provost at the University of Montana should be, our lines are open. This is what this conversation is all about, because it is your university. You pay for it with your state funds. And, of course, it's a huge part of the Missoula community. So we'd like to get involved. Give us a call, 721-1290. Okay, we are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Let's go right to the phones and talk to Dennis. Dennis, good morning. You're on with our guests. Hi.
Hello. I'm always amused that when we're talking about money and salaries at the university, one of their big benefits that the professors never talk about is spousal accommodation. And it's one of the guarantees they get when they hire on, that because of their salaries, that the spouse is guaranteed a job at the university, even if the university has to create a job for them.
All right. Now, let's see. Is that true?
No, it's simply not true.
It's not true. Okay.
In fact, we've twice in the last 2 years attempted to make hires in our department for the same position, and were unable to make a spousal accommodation and lost the hires in both cases.
Okay.
So the premise of the question simply is not true.
Is it something that's happened in the past?
Yes, it has happened at times in the past. Yeah.
Okay. But it's not a policy.
No, but in the unique cases that it has happened is that the spouse was actually himself or herself another scholar that another department needed, and there was a fit somewhere. But as a policy that there is spousal accommodation.
So they just didn't carve out someplace.
It's another one of these fictions about the university.
Hey, it's fake news.
Yeah. Please discard that fiction.
All right. So let's get Doug on the line. Doug, thanks for holding, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, Peter. Hi, John. How are you?
Good. What's up, sir?
A couple quick comments. First of all, in regards to salaries, one of the best indicators is the ratio of what the CEO makes to the average employee. So on our university, it might be the average faculty member makes about $60,000 or $70,000, and the average staff person makes about half that. So the ratio there would be about maybe 4 or 6, maybe 8 to 1 at the most. In the private sector, based on the explosion of CEO salaries, it's typically 30 or 40 to 1. So it's just about 10 times what we're talking about. That's just a comment. So, preface to my quick question, we've worked with the students and concerned community people and legislators, and about 4 key points have emerged regarding our university right now. There's budgeting and finance. There's academic program review and cuts. There's tuition and financial aid. And then there's what you guys have been talking about, the hire of a new president. So my question is, for if you could survey our faculty and keep them brief, if it's possible for faculty to be brief.
What are you trying to say?
If they're talking to the Board of Regents, here's my question. If they're talking to the Board of Regents and they have 10 or 15 seconds, what would their key message be?
Okay, so we'll
elevator
done.
pitches here.
Okay, who wants to start with the stump speech?
Doug, thank you very much for your question. I think in terms of our priorities, I think leadership positions are a priority. And you have to have a university president and a university provost before you make long-term decisions with long-term impact on the university. That is very important. But there are other issues of enormous importance. The other issue is there is a process in the last several years that courses have disappeared, courses have been cut, based on numbers that have been introduced by deans, at least in the case of, in my case, in the College of Humanities and Sciences. We need to allow the faculty to teach, and we need to stop canceling classes based on the fact that they are under-enrolled. That's what they are called. And the result of cutting these under-enrolled classes has been migration of a lot of students from the university because they get discouraged. They go and try to register for classes, and the classes have disappeared. We need to allow the faculty to teach the classes for which they have been assigned, and this is a key issue. The other thing that I think Doug is alluding to is tuition equalization between MSU and UM. This is all, I mean, not all of it completely, but all in the context of revenue. I mean, the University of Montana does not have the same kind of revenue base as MSU Bozeman. And I think this tuition equalization, MSU charges more for tuition. It has created an imbalance. And I think this is something that we need to address. And among all people, Doug himself has addressed it in conversations with, of all people, with President Engstrom and with Commissioner Christian. So that's another issue that we need to bring up. So there are four or five issues that are really paramount and are central to this discussion as we move forward.
Okay, so Dave, did you want to comment? Go ahead.
Sure. Well, after Meredith's had his 15 seconds.
And that's all the time we have. Thanks so much.
That's right. My 15 seconds would be to encourage the regents to let the processes that we've developed at the university play out at the university. One of the things that the Commissioner Christian told the faculty yesterday is that he's ready to allow the shared governance process we have be a significant part of the decisions going forward. Shared governance means the student government body, the faculty government body, the staff government body working with the administration to make decisions. And the university is much more effective when everybody helps make the decisions.
Okay, so what about you, Mike?
I think I agree with everything both Meredith and Dave said, and particularly with what Dave said. I think that let the processes go forward. You can't micromanage the university out of Helena, especially people who, quite frankly, don't have experience managing or even teaching in universities.
Well, David and Michael, you both get an award for doing an effective elevator pitch. Meredith, you got to work on yours. You're about 4 minutes over.
We are up against a break, in fact. So, Louis and Jim, we're going to ask you guys to hang on. We have 2 lines open. We're talking about the University of Montana and what is happening and what should happen, what you believe should happen there. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. This is Talkback, 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. Let's get back to the phones, and Louis has been waiting the longest. Louis, good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having the talk show. You've got a great staff there. I just want to make a short comment, which is basically a question. All throughout President Engstrom's career as president, I noticed he always kind of addressed himself in a subordinate position to Clay Christian, and he always addressed Clay Christian as his boss. And I've never heard President Cruzado in Bozeman ever make that kind of relationship. And what I'm worried about, after attending the Faculty Senate meeting yesterday, it seems to me that even if we go through an open, transparent national search for a new president and provost, is Clay Christian, the Commissioner of Higher Ed, is he micromanaging a little too much, or does he have too much influence in the administration here at the University of Montana? And even if we get the kind of president we hope we can, is there a tendency or a capacity for micromanaging here, which doesn't seem to happen at Bozeman? So I just wanted to leave that question and comment with the staff.
Okay, let's get our guests here in the studio. So, Mirdad, go ahead.
So here's my elevator 15-second sort of response. John, I hope it would be acceptable to you.
I'm going to hold my breath until you're done.
We're already at 12 seconds. I hope it's good.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
And Louis, thank you for your great question. I think that, as Mike already suggested and Dave alluded to it, is that the university has its own structure, decision-making structure. And there has to be a president, there has to be a provost. But as Dave also mentioned, there is a joint governance structure, right? Faculty senate, staff senate, student senate. And, of course, the university also have UFA, which it represents it in terms of contractual issues, in terms of the union, the faculty union. These are all stakeholders, and they have to play a prominent central role in any decision that is made on campus. I think it is actually a bad idea to micromanage the university from an office in Helena. And though it might work in the short run, it might actually backfire on the Commissioner of Higher Education and his office and his credibility and his legitimacy if he insists to run the university from Helena. The university has its own structure, and that structure needs to be respected, and that governance structure needs to play a central role in making major decisions for the future of the university.
If I may jump in here real quick. Okay. I think, now again, I'm an outsider. I think what I see happening here is Commissioner Christian has stepped in specifically because there is a problem at the University of Montana. He has asked the president to resign. So at this point, in this period of flux, that he has to play a major role in trying to keep the ship afloat, basically, until the new president is named. So am I wrong about that?
Commissioner Christian, like any other commissioner, has to play a role. He has an obligation to play a role. He's a key individual in this process, but this is not a one-man show. This is a collective. This is a sort of a group process in terms of bringing all the stakeholders and not just listening to them in sort of formalistic listening sessions. This is much more than that, because faculty, staff, and students will be here for years to come, and they need to actually play an important role. I completely agree. I don't think that Commissioner Christian would be playing this kind of role if we did not have the kind of crisis we are facing now. But while it is important to have him on board, it is very important for this process to include all stakeholders as we move forward.
I think he needs to feel very uncomfortable in this role. In other words, he doesn't need to feel like I'm right at home now being in charge. I think if I were him, I would say, this is a role I do not relish. I do not want to be here, but until this job is finished, and then when it's finished, I'm stepping back again. So
are you talking about Clayton?
Yeah, Mr. Christian.
But the role is actually filled by, what's her name?
Sheila Stearns.
Sheila, yeah.
is the interim president. So,
yeah, I was just going to add to what Meredith said. The difficulty of trying to micromanage a university or a university system even from Helena, I think is best demonstrated with the Common Course numbering that was imposed on the university system to address a problem that no one could prove existed. And they appropriated, I think, was it $2 or $3 million that we didn't have to deal with it. It turned out to be less than half of what was necessary, and even that doesn't begin to count the time spent by administrators and faculty across all the campuses.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and then it created a bunch of problems that we still haven't fully resolved. This is what happens when people who aren't familiar with the day-to-day running of a campus impose what seems like a good idea on a campus system.
You guys are officially rock stars now. All the lines are full. So let's get Jim on the line. Jim, thank you for holding. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for taking my call. I heard your guest mention a minute ago something that it struck me as rather incredulous. He said that the university should not be canceling classes that don't have any enrollment or minimal enrollment. And that is exactly part of the reason the university is in the tough shape that it's in, that kind of mindset. If kids don't want to take the class, don't have the class. Cancel it. To keep that kind of analogy going is the same kind of mindset of a business that orders inventory nobody wants to buy. And then they keep ordering it, and then they wonder why they go broke. It's craziness.
Jim, I'm going to have Mirdad answer that.
Yeah.
Okay?
First of all, thank you very much, Jim, for
Thanks,
your
Jim.
question. I think I needed to elaborate when we say under-enrolled classes. What has happened is that a few weeks are given to each class to fulfill the ceiling that they have set up. That is, the students are not given adequate time to actually find out about their financial aid, about their financial arrangements, jobs for the next semester. So while you feel outraged, I think the faculty, some who have talked to me, feel outraged that their courses are on sort of a computer for a few weeks. They are told if you are teaching an upper level class or graduate class, actually, you have to have 5. If you're teaching an intermediary upper, you have to have 10. And if you're teaching lower level, you have to have 15. Now, within a very short period of time, they come back and say, oh, you didn't meet the ceiling. You didn't meet the floor for these numbers, so your classes have been canceled. We are not saying that you should just keep classes if they're absolutely under-enrolled before the beginning of the next semester. We are saying give a longer time, a greater opportunity for students to actually register for these classes.
So that's a policy.
So I'm actually with you, Jim, in this, that under-enrolled classes at the beginning of a semester should be cut. But they should not be cut within a very short period of time. And I know it's going to come as bad news to some in the administration who have decided that this 5, 10, 15 sort of numbers are actually great and we should stick by them. But I think it's absolutely important to allow students more time to register for classes.
Okay, we're going to come right back. Turn on mic off. 721-1290 is our number. We have Michelle, John, Richard, and Jeannie, and we'll come back and get as many calls in as we can in a moment. Okay, we're back. 721-1290 is our number. This is Talkback. Our guests in the studio are Mirdad Kia, Michael Mayer, and Dave Beck, and we're talking about what's going on the University of Montana campus, and everybody is weighing in. So let's get, I know Michelle is with us right now, Michelle Valentin. Good morning, Michelle. What's on your mind?
Good morning. Hello, gang of troublemakers. Okay, I would like to bring back the elevator back to main hall, not to the basement, but main hall, the first floor. You know, Craig Christian yesterday spoke about faculty governance and reprioritization. Whom he said that it will carry on even if we don't have a new president yet or a new provost. And I'm surprised that it was not reported in the Missoulian this morning. Anyway, my question has to do with that.
But Michelle, can you just explain that? So basically, you're saying that the cuts that were planned and executed under the Engstrom administration are still going to go, and we're talking about cuts in faculty, etc.
The commissioner said it's urgent, it's crucial, we cannot wait 1 year. The reprioritization has started now, will carry on this winter. But in self-governance, is my question. Don't you think there's a danger? Everybody says, oh, we are going to self-govern. By the way, the administration is going to be there. Elena, the Commissioner of Higher Education, the Board of Regents. You know, it's very dangerous. They say, well, here's the knife. You're going to here's the guillotine, and you're going to decide who is going to go through the guillotine. This is very dangerous. I don't know. You have to be very careful with shared governance. So I would like to see your reaction there.
Guilty.
How can you
Death within
minimize
48
that,
hours. Yes.
Self-slaughtering process?
Yeah, Michelle, thank you for your call, sir. All right. So any other comment before we move along? Go ahead, Mirdad.
Yeah, I think there is a validity in the point insofar as the fact that if it's a top-down model, you know, it's the Commissioner of Higher Education, it's the Board of Regents, and they are actually making decisions for the university. As we have emphasized over and over, it's going to backfire. But at the same time, I think at the university, and at our governance level, we also have to be careful not to take the knife and start cutting ourselves either. We need to have actually long-term discussions, in-depth discussions about the future of the university. And by the way, why are these cuts are being introduced? Based on what numbers? We don't even have budgetary numbers. We don't actually know how these decisions are made. We are just being told that the numbers here and there are wrong and they have crisis mode and so on and so forth. So we need to look at these numbers. We need to look at where the deficiency and the fall of revenue is. All of these facts we are ignorant about.
I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings for you, but the upcoming legislative session, one of the things that has been brought up time and time again is tuition freeze. We're going to have So anyway, let's move along. Let's get more callers on. John, you're on Talkback. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, gentlemen, thanks for taking my call. My question had to do with the joint governance and the budgeting. I read an article in the Missoula here not too long ago regarding the university now paying for sex change hormone therapy for students. And I was wondering if that was a joint governance decision and if that will leave the university open to start paying for things like hair plugs and liposuction and that type of stuff. And is that really a good use of our taxpayer dollars?
Thanks for the call. So go ahead, Mike.
That's not a product of self-governance. That's an administrative decision. I assume I'm not even aware of it, but I assume if that decision was made, it was made by people in the Curry Health Center.
Well, now that you know that hair plugs are available,
there you go.
Here's my computer.
Got several candidates for hair plugs right here.
I myself is going in for aromatherapy. So, all right, let's move along. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Well, part of the problem we're having, and thanks for the question there, John. Part of the problem that we as faculty are having is we're being encouraged to take part in strategic planning and prioritizing programs, and we don't have the basic information of where the university budget stands, as Mayor Dodd pointed out. And we can't make good decisions if we don't know what the numbers are.
Isn't that what Mr. Reed does on a daily basis?
Yes, but the faculty and the students and the staff, if they're asked to make decisions on those things, need to know what those numbers are coming out of that office.
Well, why don't they have access to the numbers?
That's a very good question.
One would think you'd be able to walk right in and say, "Hey, Mike, what's going on with the budget? Do you have that access?" I'm sure you do.
Theoretically, we do, but in a concrete term, we do not. And I at least personally oppose any decisions being made until we get actual numbers, program by program, sort of decision by decision. This is not something that somebody who arrived here 2 or 3 years ago or somebody who's sitting in Helena should make about the university. This is something with concrete numbers that we need to have in front of us as these discussions begin. And going back, and John made a very interesting point. This is the first time I'm hearing about these things, and I've been at the university for 27 years. But the reality is, and I want to use this question as a sort of segue to a very important point, this is a public university. And I am always amazed and amused about how little the public knows about the university and what takes place and what kind of work, amazing work, teaching, research, service goes on every day on this campus. And I think as citizens of the United States, as residents of Montana, we need to sort of appreciate the amazing work that takes place on this campus every day, and also kind of educate ourselves. Some of these rumors about this program or that program is not really what the university is all about. The university is about an entirely serious process of intellectual, academic, cultural production, which we need to become aware of.
I don't think it's a fair accusation that the public doesn't know. If you go out on the street, ask anybody, they'll be excited about the sub-vice provost of interdimensional affairs, Lex Luthor, taking the reins and getting things straightened out.
But this is an economic engine, John, beyond sort of these kind. this is an economic engine in this town.
Oh, no
it
kidding,
employs many people.
Yeah.
It actually is the
largest
avenue
employer.
through which a lot of our young people are going to find jobs in the market. So it's incredibly important for the public to become more informed about the university. And if we open our mouths to the chagrin of some who would prefer the faculty to just shut up and accept everything, it's because we care and we love this university and we know its relevance to the daily life in the state of Montana.
And we got to take a break. Well, a 1 minute break. We'll be back. We have Jeannie and Mike, and we'll get those calls on. We have 2 lines open, and we also have Facebook. So we'll be right back. This is Talk Back, and it's Friday, and gosh, we're talking about the University of Montana, and time has just flown by. What do we have on Facebook, John?
Quick comment from Greg. He says, I feel Missoula needs to stop relying on the University of Montana to be the main economic driver for the community. We lost our timber jobs. We lost our paper jobs. We can't rely on the public sector university to carry this city-county through.
Okay, there you go. Thanks for that comment. Let's get Jeannie on the line. Jeannie, go ahead. What's up?
Hi. One consideration in choosing a UN president may not seem important, but is, in my opinion, and I believe in others, is that he or she does not propose a use for the UN golf course other than what it is currently being used for, a multi-use outdoor activity property. It does include golf, but it also includes many other activities. And both Presidents Denison, and Engstrom caused great angst and turmoil when proposing a retirement community and the location at the Missoula College for this property, respectively. So it took a threat of a lawsuit to keep the college from being built on the property. So I hope this issue, I hope that a new president doesn't go after this property.
Okay.
Thank you.
Linda, you have any comment on that?
Jeannie, thank you very much for your call. There were some of us who actually joined the call for the golf course and the space to remain untouched and just be used for the purposes that it was designed for. So I completely support your call, and I think that's a great idea, in fact.
Okay, let's move along, get as many calls in as we can. Mike, you're on Talkback with our guests. Hi.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. It sounds like you guys are looking for someone who, let's see, I had a little list here, has relations with politicians and community leaders, has owned a business and has had to make payroll and budget his finances, and has a good idea of current affairs and the important issues in Missoula. So I think, Peter, you should throw your hat in the ring.
Yeah, I like
it. I'm not smart enough.
Well, he does have his own small business. He doesn't paint in Bozeman, but I think he'd be definitely qualified. At least give him an interview.
To receiving your application.
I'm sure that'll be happening right away. Thanks for the call. And when we all stop laughing, we'll take our next call. Richard, you're on Talkback. By the way, I do not have a university degree. I am not well educated. So I have a glorious high school education. But Richard, what's on your mind?
Yes, thanks for taking my call. I've got 2 questions, actually. First one is, do faculty and staff members at the University of Montana, do their children get to go to college tuition-free at the University of Montana? And the second part would be,
we have all of our heads are shaking no here. But go ahead.
My other question would be, would that be a common practice in higher education throughout the state?
Okay, thanks for the call. So, does it happen in other universities and colleges?
I don't know. I don't know about the other universities and colleges in the state, but there are some schools where faculty members' children get to attend tuition free. The University of Montana has a system where full-time faculty members' children can get half tuition to attend the university, so they get half their tuition covered. They don't get room and board covered, but they get half their tuition, and that doesn't include the fees, which are actually higher than the tuition generally at the University of Montana.
Okay.
Of course, it's got to be confusing, right?
Okay, so we have exactly 3 minutes left in the program, so I want to give each of you gentlemen 1 minute, if you don't mind.
1 minute. All right.
Okay, Mike, you first. Right, go ahead.
Actually, I thought that was it John? One of the callers who listed some of the things we needed in a president was pretty good. The one thing I would add to that is a real familiarity with the academic process, with curricular matters, with what goes on at a university and why it goes on. And I think that's something that sometimes gets overlooked. The president's a fundraiser, relates to the community, deals with union and management sort of things. But he needs to be. It all is toward the academic side.
In many ways, he's the ambassador of the University of Montana to the world. Is
Absolutely.
He not? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Dave, go ahead.
Yeah.
Or she. Sorry.
Yeah. He or she. We're in a very important time right now at the University of Montana. We are going to be in the process of selecting our two top administrators, who run the university and who run the academic program.
Is that unusual to have both those positions open?
It's extremely unusual for those both to be open at once, and it makes it difficult to fill the provost position when there's not a president in place, and the president's position when there's not a provost in place. And at the same time, we're going through a strategic planning process, and we're trying to figure out how to reprioritize our course loads and our finances and things like that. So we really look forward to the opportunity as faculty members to participate fully in these decisions that are being made.
Okay, Mirdad, go ahead.
Very quickly, first of all, we really appreciate the time you have given us to speak about the university, and we appreciate all the calls. This is going to be a very important process for the university. The leadership of the university needs to be in place before major decisions are made. We have made this point over and over. But we also, as Mike mentioned and Dave just mentioned, it is extremely important to have individuals in place who understand the academic mission of this university. This is a flagship. It needs to remain at the status of a flagship. It needs to thrive again. It needs to prosper again. We need to increase the enrollment. We need to have a policy of increasing enrollment, especially non-resident enrollment, nationally and internationally. And the university needs to also remain faithful to its, and I know the word liberal will come and everybody will flip, but please, that's not the same liberal arts mission, which means humanities, social sciences, and hard sciences. That is the core value of this university. We need to revive it. We need to put it on the right track. And thank you very much for listening.
At least you're not calling it progressive arts.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, gentlemen, thank you all for being with us. We appreciate it. And thank you all for your calls. By the way, coming up on Monday, we'll have another fabulous edition of Health Talk from 8:30 until 9 from Community Medical Center. And I understand we have folks from the university coming back on Monday from the philosophy department.
Swazigli Bihan will be on with us to chat with us about another philosophical topic.
We're not quite sure exactly what it's still kind of floating out there in the ether. So
we're going to pull it down from the ivory tower.
We're not sure exactly. Anyway, drive safely out there, everybody. We will see you on Monday.